Hey everybody, Nerd Transformed here, and we're finally at the big guy himself, Transformers Combiner Wars Combiner Defensor. Now, of course, these are made up to protect the bots. I do not have Combiner Wars Groove. This is still using Rook. I'll do an update whenever I get around to getting Deluxe Groove. But I figured I'd start with how you actually attach the limbs, as the connectors can be a little bit tricky for some people. Now what it is when you slide in, these little black latches come down and lock it in place. And if I actually fold this down, you can actually see what you just go on to do is try to line up as best as you can with these little straps that stick out. Line up with this I'm not sure what you call this, but a little line, a little dent in here. Just line up as best you can, and you can see when it slides in all the way, it actually folds the latch down over it. So that's how you get the limbs attached. And it's the same thing above, just take the pieces, slide it on, clicks in, get it up here, just kind of maneuver it in there. Can be a little can definitely be a little tricky. One moment, ratchets are not the strongest. Alright, now we're just gonna, I'll just bring it over here like this. There we go. There we go. Now you just gotta slide in. The arms are definitely a bit trickier. They definitely have to have a grip on the chest itself to get them slid in. And there's your basic Defensor in his combined mode. There, I do also have the Legends Groove that attaches a chest plate, but I'll get to that in a second. Because I want to talk about the detail that's here without Groove. I do like the head. Let's start with the head. I really do like the head. It's got nice silver paint. It's got some blue paint for the eyes, which kind of come off almost like sunglasses, which does look pretty nice. It does have a very nice crest around the head with a little venting detail, and it's got little details from the crane mode. I really like the detail going through the chest plate too, like the basic chest plate. You got it kind of continues the silver and the red lines that are on the legs on the chest plate. You get a very small Autobot decal. I do wish he had a much bigger Autobot symbol. Like, he looks like he's meant just for like a big Autobot symbol, like right in the middle or something, or at least like right here, much bigger than what it has. But what can you do? He does actually have very small little circuitry details right above the silver and the red, which is kind of interesting. And then he has some detail along the sides here. He's got these little lines here. This is pretty hollow considering how many little spaces are just kind of holes. I will admit that, but it does look pretty cool and kind of looks like it's being constructed or something. You do get the details in here, which are very similar to what's up here. And again, with the silver and the red, which kind of interesting. I also have those details right above the silver and the red on both the legs and on the chest plate, so that's pretty interesting. And one thing I definitely like about how the protective bots look as Defensor, they look very cohesive. They all have pretty much the same color scheme. I mean, I will admit Blades does stick out a little bit since nobody else has that much red. But, I mean, there is a bit of red on First Aid here, and there is some red going across Defensor's chest plate, so it is enough that it doesn't stick out too much. This is the basic configuration for where you have these two as the arms and these two as the legs. My only problem with this configuration is actually that Blades is a very scrawny arm, like very scrawny, very short, while Rook's a lot bulkier as an arm. And they both look good, but they just don't look good together, because together it makes them look a little lopsided with it. As I mentioned, it does look a little strange to have this really scrawny arm. Also, I do have Blades in its basic configuration. What I actually prefer is I actually take the arm and fold it up like so. But I did want to start with the original configuration to kind of show it. But yeah, he actually does look pretty good like this. I think overall Defensor is a very nice looking combiner. Now I am going to swap over to his other configuration, and I'll also include Groove in that configuration, so let's go ahead and do that. Alright, now I got Defensor in his alternate configuration. Starting with the legs, I think they look fine. I do like how, since Blades is kind of scrawnier, being a helicopter, they leave the arms on to kind of help bulk him out a little bit, to make him look almost as wide as the others. And it kind of works from the front, but yeah, from the sides and all that, it does look a little odd, and he is very small compared to the others. but you kind of expect that from the helicopter, and he still looks good enough to work as a leg. With Rook, you are kind of stuck with this big kneecap, which, I mean, you could kind of collapse this down if you want, but you really can't do anything and just have it hang there. So you are just kind of left with this giant kneecap on Rook, but it looks pretty good. It looks like a solid leg, you know. He just has a really big knee pad on the front. Which, Streetwise actually has similar things, so I guess those two might look good together. So here we also have Groove as the chest plate, which isn't G1, but it doesn't look bad per se, and it does add some more Autobot sigils. I just wish they were bigger instead of these little stars. But it does make a decent looking chest plate. It does allow Groove to still combine in without being a limb. And yeah, I actually do like how it looks. I like how little pieces hang down. It does look okay. I mean, from the side it looks a little weird because it is just a little chunk. It really doesn't actually cover that much as a chest plate, but I don't know. I've seen worse. I think he works better than, like, say, Blackjack or Rodimus did as chest plates. Streetwise is probably my least favorite of the arms, as he looks a little odd to me, just because you have a shoulder that's kind of scrawny, but then you have a forearm that's much wider. When in most cases you would kind of want the reverse of that. So it does look really odd, plus it's like bulky, but it's like a fake bulk, because if you look at it from the side, yeah, not quite as bulky. Oh, he does bring a little bit of red, so he kind of works into like that. I noticed each of them are kind of missing like one colors that the other have. Like Hotspot doesn't have a lot of white. First Aid doesn't have a lot of blue. Streetwise doesn't have a lot of black. Rook doesn't have a lot of red, and Blades doesn't have a lot of blue, or any blue actually, except for his face. So that is one interesting thing I picked up on. But yeah, I do think he's probably the least good-looking arm. Not the worst, just the least good-looking. Plus, you're kind of stuck with this card kibble, which you can kind of configure into a shoulder blade if you want. And then First Aid, I think, is probably one of the better-looking arms. Him and Rook, I think, are probably the best arms. Rook does have that hollow piece, but still. You do get a nice, bulky-looking forearms if you want really strong looking Defensor, and the shoulder is a bit of a mess, but it is fixable if you fold out the front part and just simply fold the arms in a different way. You can get kind of more of a shoulder blade look just like Streetwise there, which does reveal more of down here, but I think it looks a bit more solid, especially having this going straight across instead of sticking down. And it covers over the hole a bit better that the gaps are right here. Like I said, it makes it just look a bit more solid and a bit more strong. Personally, what I do is I like to have First Aid and Rook as the arms, and then have Streetwise and Blades as the legs. So I normally swap these around. I also usually sometimes swap around to where I have Streetwise and Rook as the arms, as like kind of like a blue on top, red on bottom, and switch around red on top, blue on bottom. Since First Aid and Blades do have a lot of red, while Streetwise and Rook have a lot of blue. But that's just my personal thing. I think they all work enough to work as limbs without looking a little odd. Like I said, I would probably switch Streetwise and Rook, but as it is, he is a very nice looking combiner. He does have a very nice bulky look. I might actually keep him like this for a little bit, because he does look pretty nice, especially with the shoulder blades going on here. Kind of looks like a Megazord almost. As far as our... let's go do a size comparison. I do have Bruticus here, who shares 3 of the components that Defensor has, including his core. And you see, despite sharing 3 of the same molds, they actually look very different. Mainly because Bruticus has Onslaught has such a huge remold and transforms a bit differently, but still, considering they do share a lot of parts, they don't look very similar at all. Granted, I have it kind of reversed right now, but I don't know. I guess even if I were to put Blades as the arm and leave Rook down here, they still would not look completely the same. They just look so different considering they share so many parts. And I really like that. So Bruticus, get back out of there. As far as articulation on Defensor, he's got a decent amount. You do get a swivel up at the head. The arms, I'm just going to cover one. By the way, I'm just going to cover one arm because they all pretty much have the same articulation. The arms are ratcheted using the connector piece, forward and outward. and they can do a full 360, although kibble may clash a little bit. Groove really does not work as a chest plate. He comes apart way too easily. You do get a swivel that used to be the waist joint. The hip joints work as an elbow as well as the knee joints, but as I mentioned, the kibble can get away. Like, Streetwise can only go this far, while same with First Aid, they're just so bulky or there's kibble. But you can get a full 90-degree elbow, and it looks a bit natural since you're using two joints. And of course, since the hands are pegged in, they can swivel. You do get the hinge, you do get the finger hinge. The thumb has two hinges where it can go up and down, and it can also go like so, open and closing. So you can change the hands as you wish. The legs, he is a bit strange because his leg joint does not start here, it starts up here because he is using Hotspot's legs. So when you use a leg, oh, Hotspot's tire just popped off. That does happen. It gets caught on the little chest piece sticking down like that. So let me move that out one click. Put the tire back on. That has happened a couple times before, so just beware of that. It doesn't break the tire, but it does cause it to pop off very easy. But you do get ratchets going outward, you know. You do get ratchets going forward and back. And they're pretty strong ratchets, so you can get them going with a leg pose if you balance it right, like that. You could have the legs apart if you wish. They are really tricky to work with, though, just because of how deep they're in there. I mean, here they're at where his waist should be, not where his legs should be. So they are really weird to work, and they can look a little odd too because of that kind of thing. Like especially if you get the legs apart, it can look a little weird. You also get a swivel in there, you know. You do get knee joints that work the same as the arm joints, and you can also swivel them. And you can also swivel the feet, and you can technically get toe movement and all that, although I'm not sure you can really use that with how small it is. And there's no rocker or anything, so... Oh, unfortunately, Hasbro couldn't figure out how to put a hinge on top of his pegs, and his chest plate really likes to come undone. Not just groove, but like the chest plate up here. Not behaving well for a review. Work with me, Defensor. Work with me. There. Alright. And finally, of course, he does have all of his weapons. There are all the weapons that the figures do come with. You can store them in their various modes, which I can go ahead and peg all those on. There's usually room somewhere on each of them in each mode to peg them somewhere. So however you want to handle that, I personally just peg them on where I can, since they're kind of small. And of course, you do have the two guns that were Hotspot, and you can peg them together for his combined gun, I guess. Which looks plainly ridiculous because it's just two guns sitting back to back. They didn't even try, so I don't do that. I just give it to him, Defensor, as twin pistols, if you will. I mean, they practically are pistols, how big Defensor is, so. But yeah, you can get that going. And that looks pretty good, actually. And I mean, if you want, you can also still store these as well. There's, like I mentioned, there's various peg holes. It's a little wobbly right now. But I also find that you can peg him into Hotspot's hands up here. And you can get him like a similar thing to Birdicus, where you have the two guns sticking up over his head. Or maybe it looks more like Blastoise, whichever you prefer. So yeah, that is Defensor. Sorry for this review. I know it's been a bit of a mess, but the figure just didn't want to work with me, I guess. He can be a little wobbly. I mean, granted, he's not going to fall apart. I mean, he holds together well, but his joints are slightly loose everywhere. There are a little bit too much room in each ratchet for my taste. And I will admit the legs are a wonky thing with how the hip joints work. But there's a lot of fixes to that. There's a lot, you can extend them out to use Hotspot's full legs. You know, you can get a chest plate that will cover over that. There's a lot of things you can do to fix that. And not everybody's arm mode looks perfectly, or leg mode works perfectly, but I don't think any of them honestly look bad. Just some of them don't look good together. Like I mentioned, Rook and Blades don't really look good together just because one's bulky, one's not. But overall, I think this is a really good set. If you like Protectobots, if you like Defensors, if you like Transformers, I would highly recommend getting this set. They are very fun, very interesting. And I really like the colors, I really like the figures, I really like how they all look together. I think it's just a really good figure set. So, this has been Very Transformed. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope you have a good day. Take care.